Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So thanks to the NBC team for everything. I'm really glad to be here. So I'm from the University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, the Natural Resources Management Department. The first question is that we're going to answer, we are trying to answer is why birds? Why study birds or conserve them? So, someone with an agricultural background, birds have a very special role in agriculture when it comes to biological pest control. They also make a huge, or maybe not huge, but a significant economic contributions to nations through bird watching. And many other benefits that they offer to humanity and nature in general. Many bird species also have certain characteristics that make them very valuable to us. For example, some species specialize on habitats, diets, and even in territories. And because of this, they are more sensitive to changes that happen in those particular places, such that by studying those species, we might be able to know that something is changing in their environment in a way that maybe wouldn't be possible if it were not for the birds. So they are well positioned generally to enable us to understand what is happening there. That's one of the main reasons why birds are really important for us to study. However, studies are showing that bird populations globally are declining due to several factors, including destruction of their habitats, and many other species are also getting extinct. And the good thing, however, is that if these particular declines are detected early enough, they are reversible. And studies have shown that. So we can reverse them if we detect them enough. But then the problem is that there seems to be an imbalance when it comes to bird species monitoring. So in many countries, especially in Africa, there is the capacity to monitor birds and study them is limited compared to other regions. So because of that, it's challenging for conservation decisions and actions to be made because of the lack of data, especially in places like Africa, like I've already mentioned. And the case is no different in Malawi. So, for example, the Mulanje Mountain has a tropical climate that creates a diversity of habitats, and that is conducive to several evergreen forest species. So we have, for example, the spotted ground thrush. It's currently vulnerable on the ICA red list. This one is endemic to Malawi, a subspecies of course, and it was last seen in 2005. We also have Cholo Alifi. This one is endemic, so it's found in southern Malawi and in northern Mozambique. There is also orange ground thrush. So these are just some of the evergreen forest species that are found in southern Malawi on Mulanje Mountain Forest. And over the years, human pressure has been increasing on this particular forest, threatening the survival of this particular species. However, work hasn't been done to, for example, assess their current conservation status or extinction risk. despite recommendations that have been made in the previous years, but also some efforts. Some people have tried to survey this particular species, but the status hasn't still been known. The aim of this study was to try to understand the current risk of this particular species at the local scale, so that we could upscale policy response as well as management decisions to where these species occur in order to strengthen conservation action. And we tried to answer these particular questions. So we wanted to understand the current extent of occurrence and pattern of spatial distribution, and then where they are possibly concentrated. We also wanted to relate their spatial distribution, pattern of distribution, to threats that this particular species might be experiencing. And the last question that we attempted to answer was about how the use of emerging berry surveying methods can enhance monitoring efforts and future extinction risk assessments on Mulanje Mountain. Why? Because previous surveys have been conducted rarely, but also using traditional methods largely. For example, point counts and transit walks. So this is the map of Mount Mulanje. It's located at the very edge of Malawi. So we have, like here, this part not indicated, but this is Mozambique. So this is at the very bottom of southern Malawi, and then we have Palombe district and the Mulanje district. We targeted it because of the fact that it is potentially the only remaining stronghold of this species, but also, like I've already mentioned, previous surveys have been done rarely and were conducted using traditional means. So survey protocols, we were guided by literature based on the preferred habitat, because Mulanje Mountain has evergreen forests and also grasslands, but we targeted natural evergreen forests because this is where these particular species are preferred, and surveys were conducted using two methods. So we did a review of the surveying methods that are currently used, and then based on the characteristics of the habitat and the success or the challenges that previous surveys have encountered, by also balancing limitations of passive acoustic modeling and point counts, we decided to combine the two. So surveys were conducted in November to December in 2020 and the November 2021, and human observers were making direct observations of who perceived the threats in the habitat, because this data is needed to conduct assessments of conservation status of red risk statuses of species based on the IUCN methodology which we use. So the threats were detected using that, but also we quantified, for example, forest cover using remote sensing methods. And then sampling points were systematically selected at least 300 meters apart along with transects, and recordings were made at that particular frequency. So we used audio ones, and though they are official containers or covers, but there are also provisions that we can use Ziploc bags, because these ones are budget friendly. So we used double Ziploc bags, and we tied them to a tree like that, and those are the details of how the device looks like. So, data processing analysis, what we did was that we, first of all, checked the audibility of the files. We quickly checked through each of them. And those that were found to be fit for analysis, but still had unnecessary noise, we did a little bit of filtering. But then filtering was only done for those files that didn't have, for example, species with very low frequencies. So I'll just say that to avoid going into too much maybe technicals of the detail. And then we randomly selected 5-minute files from each sampling hour. So sampling was done from like just early in the morning to around 8 a.m. And then so when we did select that this particular file is fit for analysis, we split that into 5-minute files, and then these particular files were uploaded one at a time into Audacity for oral identification. So like I said, that we had a human observer who was moving around to do point counts. This very same observer was involved. He assisted us to when we were analyzing the data. So what we did is that we could play, and I had a sheet. So I was recording, and then I was telling that, okay, that is recorded, maybe that is this, that's what we were doing that manually, because that's what we could manage to do. For the results, so on the distribution, we found that the 3 species are unevenly distributed. So like I said that for Mulanje Mountain, there are certain areas that are said to be preferred habitats for this particular species. So we focused on 2 patches, the Ruo and the Chisongeri, and so spotted Jokitila Gudana Besheri in Ruo was not found. It was found in Chisongeri. Jokitila Gulei, same thing. In Ruo we didn't find it. We only found it in Chisongeri. Only Choloesis was found in both the 2 patches. And then when it came to analyzing the conservation status of the species, we found that all the 3 species locally are threatened. So for that, for the analysis, or for calculating or assessing the species, we needed to know their historical data. And we went on GBIF to assess the data that was there. And so for Jokitila Besheri, we found that there were no valid points that we could use. So we only used the data that was collected during this particular study. So for this one, we try to assess to say, okay, which species was found using which method, so that could inform the third question that we had in this particular study. So for example, Bioacoustics rather, for the past acoustic surveys, we had 3 records. Point counts didn't record any, and then we had opportunistic observations, so we had 2, and making a total of 5. So using those 5 points, we found that, like we said, the current IUCN status is vulnerable, but using these points and relating it with the threats, based on the IUCN methodology, found that this other species currently, at least at the local level, is critically endangered. For Gune, we found historically 20 points were still valid, that we could use them, and then PS, we found 6 points, point counts recorded 1, opportunistic observations, we had 5, total medium top. So we had 20 points plus those points, like locations. So we just had GPS locations from those. And then the ICN says that it is the of least conservation, but currently like in Addis in Malawi, it's endangered. The same applied to Choloethes. So combined methods, we noticed that combined methods were more effective than if we use single methods, because out of the 59 species that we recorded, 37 species were recorded by both methods, and then there we had a point counts recorded 15, and of the 15, 11 were recorded all like visually. And then passive acoustic surveys recorded 7 of the 59. We also felt that passive acoustic surveys can permit budget-friendly higher temporal coverage in habitats of interest, and this is because in 2020 we only had 3 days of point counts. In 2021 we had 4 days, a total of 7. And then in 2020 for passive acoustic surveys, we managed to record for 38 days. Again, this 38 days, not 24 hours, but we had designated sections of the day where recordings were done. And then in 2021 we had 7 days. So we felt that having individuals, observers, taking them to the field is kind of costly than just having recorders. You set them in the field and then you go back, you come to collect the data after many more days. So in conclusions, we concluded that currently the extinction risk of this particular species in Malawi, or rather Mulanje, is increasing considerably, and when it comes to their concentration, these species are more concentrated in Kisongeli, and if it is conservation action, it means that the priority has to be there while concentrating on the other ones, because if that place is also like, if threats continue there, it means the species, the extinction risk will be even high. We also felt that long-term passive acoustic monitoring should be considered on Mulanje Mountain, given the current scarcity of experienced observers, to improve monitoring efforts. So that is these are the species that I'm talking about. So we have Bioacoustics, Guinea, Chamaitida stonesis, and spotted ground thrush. Thank you.